it's your boy Young Love. I give him that time. Pancho leg stand and punchy America. Banyi doll, pancho leg stand and punchy America. Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankaro water no watching. Oga level leg, gear, pow, leg. Panda with ya, punchy America. Banya doll, no, chingatonga pandon could you buy a check out. Patu panda jiro, what ya be doll venting. Stand and punchy America, Banyi doll, pancho leg stand and punchy America, Banyi doll, ban walk on your leg, kankaro water no watching, Oga level leg, gear, pow, leg, Panda with ya, punchy America, Banya doll, chingatonga pandon, could you buy a check out, Patu panda gear, what ya be doll venting.
Thank you so much to our viewers, wherever you are tuning in. Welcome to Lagos State Media on this day of 26th of August 2022. And in the studio, we have wise men of our time and our members who will talk to South Sudanese in regard to the situation in our country, politically, economically, and socially. We have a lot of issues that are actually affecting the nation, and this brilliant mind and great mind will discuss and give their perspective and opinions on the same matters in our country. In the studio, we have one of the prominent activists, Rajab Muhandis, who is also a signatory to Revitalized Peace Agreement of 2018. And the leader of PCCA. And on the other hand, we have Awuolic, who was the former executive director of Sud Institute and a leader of PCCA. That is people's
Coalition.
Sorry for that. People Coalition for Civil Action. Sorry for that.
Yes.
Yeah, they will talk to us in regard to numerous of topic, and number one that they will tackle is the issue of extension. Remember, Lagos State did not host them since the extension was announced. So we really need to hear from their perspective and their opinions on that regard. We also need to listen to their opinions in regard to the issue of insecurity in our country, especially the Mayom incident, and alongside the vote of no confidence being raised against the governor of Unity State by the Council of the State, alongside the response of the presidency, especially the office of President Salva Kiir Mayar, in regard to the vote of no confidence. And we will move to the effect of economy and the hyperinflation in our country, and also the rampant degrees. Because when our economy is not doing well, the victims are always two people: is central bank leaders and Ministry of Finance leaders. So we'll also hear from them. Is this changing? Will change anything in regard to our economy aspect? And thereafter, we'll also seek their opinions and their position as oppositions to the extension and to the current leadership, how they are handling the affairs of our country. To our viewers, whoever is watching us, I'm reminding you to share the live show on your wall so that your colleague will also get to listen to their perspective and their views. After this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allowed me to give each one of them 2 minutes for their opening remark before we move to our today conversation. Mr. Rajab Muhandis, the chance is yours. Give us your opening remark. Thereafter, we'll go to Abraham Awuolic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, my brother Majok Makur, for hosting us and the leadership of Lakes State Media. I want to extend my greetings to South Sudanese who are following us on this talk show everywhere they may be. And I'm happy to be here to discuss the state of affairs in our country, as you outlined. It's always an opportunity and an honor to be with you on this platform to discuss. And we're happy to be here as the People's Coalition for Civil Action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abraham.
Yeah, thank you very much, my brother, for hosting us today. My brother Majok Makur and the entire leadership of Lake State Media for providing this space for the people of South Sudan to share their views and to talk about the future of their country. I am delighted today to share this space with my colleague Rajab Muhandis. And our job here as citizens of the Republic of South Sudan is to educate the people of South Sudan about the nature of the problem facing their country, so that when they are evaluating their livelihood and projecting the future that they see, they have the correct information. And correct information is needed for action. So when people hear correct information, it's our hope that they will act according to that information. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Abraham Awuolic, Rajab Muhandis, for your opening remark. It is true indeed, South Sudanese need more information. And we are always grateful on behalf of Lake State Media for you always taking time to come and share your thoughts with South Sudanese across the globe. We are honored for that, and it is our duty always to invite people of like-minded to come and discuss the affairs of our country. And the information, as many scholars always put it, that information is power. It is up to our citizen to analyze the information that you always give out to them. And it is their responsibility on what to do with that information. And maybe in the future, some of them will refer back the events that may occur in our country to what you have been talking this time. Thank you so much. We'll move straight to the topic of the extension. Rajab Muhandis, Abraham Awuolic, you have been so much vocal in the affairs of the country, and you have been at the front line advocating for the citizens to know their right for the last 4 years during the implementations of revitalized peace agreement. Unfortunately, citizens were hoping that the elections might be conducted this year or early next year, the month of January to the month of February, before the end of revitalized peace deal. Unfortunately, the two leaders decided to extend the transitional periods for another 24 months. That is equivalent with the 2 years periods, and that 24 months will commence at the end of these transitional periods, maybe on 22nd of February 2023 up to 22nd February 2025. Technically, from now where we speak, we still have more 3 years to go, since we are in 2022, and we will be free with this implementation or agreement by 2025. What are your thoughts in regard to the extension, considering the circumstances surrounding the same peace deal and the extension at once? I will start with Abraham Awuolic, There, you will followed by Rajab Muhandis. Abraham, activate your mic. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Majang Makur for the question with regards to the extension. On my personal capacity and on behalf of the PCCA, we have been clear. We reject any extension of the transitional period. And the logic is simple. The parties who signed this agreement did not provide enough evidence why they have not implemented the peace agreement up to now. Every evaluation that has taken place in South Sudan on the implementation of this agreement has concluded that the reason the agreement has not been implemented is lack of political will. Lack of political will does not come from everybody in the country. Lack of political will come from the political leadership in the country. And so if the political leaders do not want to do something, it will not be done because nobody has enough resources or the power to do it. And so if the delayment and the lack of implementation of the peace agreement is a lack of political will, then how does the extension of that agreement, which there is no will to implement, how does it get implemented, therefore? And there is no promise that a political will be provided and that leadership will be provided. That is one. Number two, the extension of the transitional period is not a mandate of a sitting government alone, since this has implication on who is going to lead the country for another 2 years. It is a mandate that belongs to the people of South Sudan. And so it is like if you have an election and your term is about to end, and you introduce a constitutional amendment to extend your term for another 2 years, would that not cause constitutional crisis in the country? This is the same situation that we are facing right now. A sitting government goes ahead and gives itself additional 2 years. That is a coup. Constitutionally, that is a coup. That is a decision made against the popular will of the people of South Sudan. And so really, on the basis of that, we cannot support a coup because we believe in the popular and sovereign power of the people of South Sudan to give people the mandate to govern. And it is not within the confines of the power corridors, people who are close to power to sit down and decide how long they want to rule. That decision should be left to the people of South Sudan. And so on that basis, we reject the extension. Thirdly, even while the parties are promising to do better, we have just seen recently fighting involving, like 3 days, 4 days ago, involving the government, the faction of President Kiir, the faction of Dr. Riek Machar, the faction of Gadwij Dwal, and the faction of Johnson Olony fighting in Upper Nile. Now, all these people have an agreement and they have agreed to be in the government of national unity. So how do you explain that fighting? So we can simply explain that fighting within the context of power and also within the context of lack of political will. So already the agreement, the decision to extend the agreement has not been passed through the RJMAG, and the parties are already fighting in the field. How do you give us assurance as the people of South Sudan that that you are now serious? Now you are a government of national unity. So we passed a very serious vote of no confidence in this government, and we would not give it even 1 minute an extension to extend the suffering of the people of South Sudan. They have brought the economy to its knees. They have not improved our international image. They have not improved the lives of ordinary people. They are continuing to displace people instead of returning people home. There is no really any basis for this extension other than the brood desire to steal power from the people of South Sudan. And so, on that basis, I, in my personal capacity and also in the capacity of the PCCA, we reject this extension vehemently. And we had asked the people of South Sudan to reject this. We asked the region, the international community to also reject this extension. The only way out, of course, people can ask if they cannot extend the period and they cannot have an election, what is the way out? The way out is a national dialogue. There is no way around that. You have to go around the table that include people who have not signed the Article and the ordinary people of South Sudan, the religious leaders, civil society, and the Article sitting on the table to discuss this matter, because it is a mandate that belongs to the people of South Sudan. The RRCs, which is being extended, is an exclusive agreement between the government of President Salva Kiir, the opposition of Dr. Riek Machar, and various small groups who combine to form what they call SOA, and of course the appendages that call themselves other opposition parties. So it is not inclusive, and it doesn't include the voice of citizens. And so on that basis, the way out of this is to have a roundtable that will put on the table this extension itself and the need to form a new government that is based on the outcomes of the dialogue, a government whose main job would be to prepare the country for an election. A government that will be made up of people who have no desire to run for political office after the transition. Their job is to put South Sudanese together, pull the country, unite the country, prepare for election, and prepare the country for new leadership. This is how we look at it. Anything short of that, obviously, is a coup. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abraham, for stating your position clearly with the reason to why you object and reject the extension, because you are so mindful about the suffering of South Sudanese. Because the more time we spend on implementation of this revitalized agreement, the more people continue to suffer, and the more people continue to die. Thank you for that, Rajab Muhandis.
Okay, thank you very much once again. Now, what my colleague Awuolic has shared is exactly the position of the PCCA with regard to the issue of extension of the transitional period by the revitalized transitional government of national unity and its affiliates and so on. Now, we consider that the experience we've had since the signing of the agreement, 47 months ago to date, indicates that there is actually nothing new that these parties are going to offer. If anything, the situation in South Sudan may just even continue to worsen. And so this entire extension is the extension of untenable status quo, extension of the insecurity, multiple insecurity we have, and the extension of the suffering of the South Sudanese public. and in fact blocking opportunities for the pursuit of genuine peace in the country. The agreement has turned out to be a tool that the parties now use to block and undermine the genuine pursuit of peace in South Sudan. So extending this agreement is in fact catastrophic to the South Sudanese public, the people of South Sudan, and the country itself. Now, what does it, and then what do we do in this case? And Awuolic has explained exactly what we believe we should do as the people of South Sudan as this agreement comes to an end. And I want to take us a little bit a step back to look at the current agreement, where it came from. This agreement was signed, first of all, in 2015. It was called the Agreement on the Resolution of the Conflict in the Republic of South Sudan. Now, the agreement went on with very weak and poor implementation until the incident of J1 2016 occurred, when there was fighting in J1 at the presidential palace. And after that, the whole arrangements got changed, especially with the main opposition. And that time there were only two parties to the agreement, two political entities. That was the government then, and then the SPLM-IO. Now, when the agreement could no longer deliver peace as expected, RJMEC made a recommendation to IGAD and said the agreement should be revitalized. And in the process of the revitalization, South Sudanese were invited. A big number of South Sudanese intellectuals, religious leaders, academics, of course, civil society, and so forth, were invited to Addis. And I was privileged to be part of that, representing civil society. And IGAD consulted with us as to what revitalization would mean to us as the people of South Sudan. And we said, over that period that the agreement was signed, it was almost a year, a lot had changed. A number of other stakeholders emerged. A number of other, parties emerged fighting the government. And so there were now not only two parties, but there were several parties involved in the process. And it was important to map out all those parties, where they were, and then include them in the revitalization process, so that they would move from the use of violence to a peaceful process to construct another arrangement that would then deliver peace in South Sudan. IGAD did exactly that. They went around consulting with almost all the groups that emerged after the signing of the agreement, and that included groups like, for example, the National Salvation Front and so many others that came up later. All of them were taken to the negotiating table to address the situation. Now, where we are right now, a lot has also changed since the agreement was signed 47 months ago. What has changed? We have the construction, the initial agreed arrangements of the agreement has completely changed. Even the relationships in the agreement, which was supposed to be collegial and in a manner that demonstrates willingness to deliver peace, has also changed. We are aware that the first vice president is locked down in Juba and can't move at all, and the rest of the situation that we know. For example, we have many groups that have also emerged since then. Now we have groups like the South Sudan People's Movement and Army of Rolnyang and so forth. So and many others that have also defected or changed from this arrangement of the agreement when it was signed in 2017. So we have completely a different environment at the moment that the agreement may not at the moment actually adequately accommodate or address. And for that reason, and honestly, given the fact that the agreement is no longer helping to deliver peace and also improve on all the factors that were outlined, issues of human rights, issues of humanitarian situation, issues of the economy, the security, and all this, there is need for South Sudanese to say, no, things have gone wrong, and we need to sit down and look at the whole thing in the best interest of the whole country. What is working out now is a state capture, by one entity in the peace agreement, and this entity undermines and has weakened most of the other parties, and now bulldozes. And that entity is the entity that is led by the section that is led by the president. And so we have a very difficult situation that does not present itself as a way forward for peace in South Sudan. And that is why we have always where we came from, and what is it that we wanted for the independent South Sudan itself. Those visions and ideas are there in literature, and we know what we wanted for South Sudan. What we have now is not the South Sudan we wanted. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajab Muhandis, for giving us inside information and also taking us back to the step of this agreement, how the agreement came into being. And the agreement, if I'm not wrong, this will be the fifth extension, since it was revitalized. And we have seen after there was a declaration in Freedom Hall of Roadmap, 1 week immediately after that declaration of extension, we have seen the prices in the market shooting up, and the rate of dollar against our local currency, pounds, went up to 700 pounds per dollar, per $100. On the same note, also, we have experienced and we have heard and we have seen the rampant insecurity across the country. And citizens are asking themselves, now our leaders are promised that these 2 years periods, we will do everything possible to make sure the elections, implementation of these agreements will be fully in place, and then we go for peaceful election. They were saying if we go for election now, then we still have a lot of crashes. So we are taking, or we are signing another check for the war, unless we extend it the periods that will give us ample time to implement the agreement. The question was, 23% was implemented for the last 4 years of the agreement. And then 77 or 75%, over 70% of the agreement is yet to be implemented within 2 years' time. The question is, what magical things that will appear within these 2 years to implement the over 70%, which they failed to implement over 4 years? On the same note, you will also tell us that considering the position of international communities now, who were also funding the agreement, some of them were not happy with the extension, because they were saying they have given a lot of money, hoping that the peace will be implemented within the given period of time. And unfortunately, the peace was not implemented. Now extension for 2 years. Where will this government get finances from? You need to tell us if the extension will work, because up to now, the citizens and the leadership itself in Juba seem to be comfortable with the extension, despite the situation we are in now as the country. Rajab Muhandis, give us your thoughts on that, and then followed by Abraham Awuolic. But any one of you is free if there is anything that you need to interject. Thank you.
You are muted, Chief.
Oh, okay. Let me start with the percentages that you referenced during the declaration of this extension at the Freedom Hall. Of course, they read out a document saying that 27.3% of the activities of the tasks were accomplished, and we're left with about 72.7%. Now, here is what they did. Most of the things that were implemented were mainly procedural, and those were things to do with formation of institutions and a few things like that. And most of these institutions formed remain largely dysfunctional as well. and I've always referenced one that is the DDR Commission, for example. The latest quarterly report of RGMEC confirmed that since the DDR Commission was established, it has never done anything. It is only used, like they just pick the leaders to visit the training centers. When people want to visit, they go and visit, and they come back to the offices. They have done literally nothing in terms of their mandates. So in terms of our monitoring of the process as the civil society, we use not to look at just what has been formed, what has been ticked, like this institution has been formed, this one has been formed, but we look at the impact in terms of its delivery on its mandate. Now, if you go to that and see what these institutions that have been established and also the overall impact of the 27% they have talked about, there is extremely limited impact on all that. But this here is the problem. If you cannot implement, the programs within 47 months, if you can only implement 27% in 47 months, I mean, let's assume that they actually even implemented up to 27%, 0.3, then there is no way you can perform a miracle to implement 72.37% in 24 months. In fact, if you do this as a calculation, there is this simple calculation of secondary school that they say, if it takes you this time to do this work, how much would it take you to do this other one? So if you say it takes you 47 months to accomplish 27.3%, how long will it take you to accomplish 72.7%? It will actually be about 10 years, So there is no way they would convince us that they would do much in this. The second thing is, as Awuolic mentioned earlier, it is about really the commitment to implement the agreement, which is missing. And this commitment cannot be realized by simply changing the dates or extending timelines. It has to be a demonstration of true commitment. We have seen them trying to prove to the South Sudanese public and the international community that something is happening. They are going to graduate the forces now. But you can also see, as you mentioned earlier, they've taken several steps backwards in engaging in this violence and several other things that have happened of recent. So there is very little that they are going to offer. There's absolutely nothing we see hopeful. And with regard to the position of the international community, I believe that they are frustrated, not just because the parties want to extend. Extension in itself is not the problem. The problem is that the extension offers completely nothing. It offers hopelessness. Those who are hopeless about the economic situation, those who are hopeless about the security situation, are going to experience more hopelessness in this extension. There is no convincing evidence that things will change. So that is the frustration with many South Sudanese and also with the international community, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you, Abraham.
Well, thank you very much. I think my colleague has eloquently elaborated on the challenges ahead. What I can add is that an agreement is a form of contract. And in a contract, there must be an enforcement mechanism so that if one of the parties violates the contract, then there are penalties. One of the things that I was hoping would come out of this extension that is being discussed is exactly that. Where are the penalties and who is the arbiter? Who is going to enforce this contract? Listen, we should not lie to the people of South Sudan. This agreement is a sham. It has no enforcement mechanism. There is nothing, zero. So assume this. If somebody gives you a car and say, please, you drive this car, and when you arrive, you are going to die. How long do you think it will take you to drive that car? You will meander around. It may take you 10, 15 years, 30 years, because you don't want to arrive. So the peace, because you have the freedom to decide how early or how late you go. So unless you are forced to arrive, you will never arrive. So what I want to say about this is that President Kiir has been given this agreement to implement, and he is the one that decides whether to implement it or not. And if he implements it, it will lead to an election which will get him out of office. If he doesn't implement it, there is no penalty. So he's doing what a rational person would do: delay the implementation of the agreement so that he can extend his life in office. And because he can do that without any repercussion, he is willing to do it any time of the day. This is the major flaw in this agreement. First of all, you would hope that the forces of the parties will provide that threat that if one of the parties violates the agreement, then the parties are likely to go back to war. That is usually the threat in any of the agreements. Unfortunately, these parties have no forces. They have no power. The little forces that they have been scattered. They have been divided and shredded. They've been bought. So that was the only enforcement mechanism. There is no international enforcement mechanism because the international community had reservations about the peace agreement. The reservations were based on the fact that, on the knowledge that they have, that President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar have no capacity whatsoever to get South Sudan to peace. This has been proven for 17 years. There is no question about this. You don't need any scientific study to establish whether President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar are incapable of giving South Sudanese peace. Okay? Maybe if I borrow Ezekiel Lulgat's idea, they might have signed Ajama. These people have failed. And nobody would have enthusiasm to support them. They know the capacity of these men. They have the capacity to cause extreme violence, but they have no capacity to provide leadership and to make peace. So it was on this basis that the international community set the reservations. So for the people of South Sudan who are waiting out there, clapping their hands that, oh, you know, the extension is good, let me tell you this. This extension will produce no single job for you young people in the country. This extension will not provide peace, the peace that you people want so badly. This extension will not provide the security that we so want so badly. So this is the situation that we are facing right now in this country. And so really, it is a terrible, a tragic situation that we are facing in the country. We have an agreement whose implementation is in the hands of the very people who don't want to implement it. And there is no recourse, there is no place to go. If the agreement is not being implemented, you have no place to go. You have no international sanctions that would come in and say, why didn't you implement the peace agreement? That doesn't exist. The RJMAC is a toothless entity. All they do is report. They can report as many times as they want, and there is nothing that will happen. The citizen is also a toothless organization. Of course, it will go and say, yeah, they fought yesterday, and so what? So reporting that somebody fought yesterday You are reporting to who? You are reporting to the very people that fought, and you are asking them to make a decision not to fight. Honestly, this is the most tragic political event that ever happened in any country. And so the people of South Sudan really have no recourse here. They can be abused, their power can be taken, their money can be taken, they can be taken to war, and nobody will hold anyone accountable. That is why organizations like the PCCA are saying we have to take matters into our own hands. Neither our leaders nor the international community is there to help us. We have been abandoned. This is the clear message that we have. We have been completely abandoned by the region, by the international community. We have been left to our own devices. Our leaders have discouraged any possibility of providing any support to them because they lie. They have been consistently lying throughout their lives in office that we are going to do this, they don't do it. They are lying to the people of South Sudan that there are some investors coming. Absolutely nothing will come. Which investor will be so crazy to trust their investment in the hands of these men who have proven to only have capacity to murder their own people, but nothing to produce? Our economy.
They themselves even don't invest in the country. They
Absolutely.
go and invest elsewhere.
Absolutely. So anyway, I can go on and on, but my brother Majok, if we want to inform the people of South Sudan about the truth, the position of the international community is that they don't like this agreement, but they have nothing to do with it. They cannot reject it or they cannot accept it. It is up to the people of South Sudan to decide. And you have heard this statement so many times. Everybody has given up on South Sudan. They say this thing cannot be fixed. You need leadership that can work with you to fix things. But they cannot go in and say, okay, so and so go home. It is not their responsibility. The responsibility is ours. And so most likely the parties will extend the agreement. Those of us who are opposed to it will continue to oppose it. 2 years will go. Nothing will be done. They will report that they did 3%, and that will mean that 30% will be added. 3% will be added to the 27 that you have now, and by the end of 2 years, they will report that 30% was done. Really, we don't need this agreement, because if this agreement was so important to us, and only 27% of it is implemented, we would be dead by now. This agreement is meaningless in the people of South Sudan's lives. It is only causing economic hardship. So why don't we forget about it? We can either forget it and just say, okay, President Kiir, you are our dictator now, do whatever you like. And everybody goes home and sleep and wait for Jesus to come. That is the only thing that is left. Or we say, no, we cannot take this anymore and take matters into our own hands. These are the only two possible options. Otherwise, every other possible option, legal or moral, those things are dead. There is nothing moral or legal in South Sudan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abraham.
Let me add
Rajab,
something
you
before
can interject, yeah.
Yeah, very, very briefly. You actually mentioned that people in the country are kind of okay with the call for extension. I just want to dispute that. When the extension was announced, that weekend, the Saturday, that time, Radio Miraya hosted the ministers. They hosted Honorable Elia Lomuro, they hosted Honorable Angelina Teni, they hosted a number of other members of the transitional government. And the reaction of citizens to the talk show when they called and sent messages was extremely harsh. And many said, no, we will drive you out. We cannot take this anymore. If you followed on the South Sudanese social media, again, the same thing. So many of our citizens have expressed this, disapproval on that. The extension, the call for the extension. The extension has not been fully endorsed as such. They are meeting on the 1st of September to pass it in RJMEC, and then that will then go to the parliament and so forth. But this process itself is not welcome by majority of our citizens, and they have expressed their frustrations through the social media, through the radio talk shows in the country, and some of the demonstrations that have been happening are also a way of really expressing frustration with the situation. The second thing is we got reliable information. Some government officials cried when this was announced, because their living conditions are very appalling, very bad. And they have just been told that these conditions are going to continue for another 24 months. And so several people cried that they are held hostage into a situation that is so unbearable. So the silence of the people is partly because people are suppressed and threatened. Anyone who wants to really express frustration about the situation is quickly taken up, and if you are not lucky, you lose your life. So this is partly why people seem to be quiet, but the anger of the public is boiling, and it's a time bomb in the country. So it makes the country sit on a time bomb. It's not a good way to lead a country. Get everyone frustrated except a few people who eat everything in the country in Juba, who are happy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abraham and Rajab Muhandis. The analogy of someone that have been given a car to drive at his own will, but the stop station or the bus station, that's where the person will die. So definitely you cannot be in a position to be in a hurry so that you can stop the bus and die. You can drive at your own will so that you can spend as many years as you can, at least to extend your lifespan. Actually, that spoke a lot in regard to the agreement in our country. It is the bus being given to the driver and the conductor to drive at their own will. Thank you for that. And Rajab Muhandis, it's true, you have answered it adequately, that citizens actually were surprised to hear that. And at first, Makwelu, who is the spokesperson of the government, came out publicly and said that there is no anything to do with the extension, where it was rumors. And in the same week, that's where people came up with the roadmap. People went in Freedom Hall, they shouted and they gave their speech. But citizens were worried about the speech of Dr. Riak, because Dr. Riak demanded two things from President Salva Kiir. He told him that president, make it clear today that we have freedom or political space as IO. That's what Riak said. And president did not respond about that. Dr. Riak too mentioned that there were some bills which were passed in the absence of IO MPs, members. Those bills must be taken back to the parliaments for the IO to pass them. President did not comment on two things. And now citizens are still wondering, was Dr. Riak telling us that without presence of IO in the parliaments, then the functions of the legislatures will be stopped until IO return to the parliaments? And that is the question citizens are asking. But the silence of the public sends a clear message now, and the leadership are using the silence of the public to convince the international communities that, you see, even citizens are okay with the extension. That is why you are not seeing any demonstration, you are not seeing any protest, you are not even seeing anything. But citizens are dying inside of them because they were being told that there is no tear gas and there is no rubber bullets. They have only live bullets. It has already been made clear by Tik Tik, who is the deputy town mayor of Juba. And citizens now are left with only one option, then to stay in Juba and wait for what will happen at the end of this transitional extension period of 2 years. But now you have seen them moving on with the implementation. That is chapter 2, the graduation of unified forces. They have already set the date after the 30th of this month, and President Salva Kiir dispersed his right-hand man into the region to invite the leaders across the region to attend the graduations of these unified forces. But the question is, which you will give us your thoughts. Do you think these unified forces that will due to be graduated soon, have they already been liberated from their tribes to stand at the national army, to stand at the national police? Because many citizens are worried, and they are saying that for the last 3 years, many soldiers deserted the training site and they came back to their cities because the living condition there was horrible. Now, they are going to be graduated. What have they learned? Are we graduating the same mess of 2016? Are we graduating the same forces that always pay allegiance to their parties or their leaders? Or we are graduating national army and national police? We really need your thoughts on that. Thank you so much. I will start with Abraham Awuolic, and then Rajab Muhandis will follow next. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Majuk. That is an important question, and I don't want to delay and dwell on it. First of all, why would you expect the soldiers to be nationalists when their leaders are divided? I mean, it's just straightforward. They have not seen a sense of nationalism and a sense of patriotism among their leaders. They have been tortured. They have been subjected to tremendous suffering. They have been treated like criminals in the training camps. So where would they get their nationalism from? There is nowhere they can get that. So they are told that, oh, you are not graduated because President Kiir doesn't want to. He doesn't think that you guys are loyal to him. Oh, you are not graduated because Dr. Riek Machar doesn't like you people because they think that. So nationalism doesn't happen among soldiers when their own leaders are not nationalists. It just doesn't happen. The Swahili people would say mtoto wa nyoka ni nyoka, that the baby of a snake is a snake. So so that means you give birth to your kind. So President Kiir and Dr. Riek Machar will give birth to their kind. And so I really am not optimistic about these soldiers being graduated, having been that they are going to be professional national army. I don't think so. These are people who have been mistreated for the last 3 years, been left to die in the training camps, starvation and disease. And they have been promised so many times to be graduated, and they have not. And the national army in the headquarters is not one that is treated with respect and with dignity. It is all personal militia that you see well fed, well dressed, and given all the opportunities. And so why would you expect that to change? And if I may add, and we will talk about this, the size of our economy is so small right now. I will talk about this in detail on the section related to the economy. In 2013, when our leaders decided to take our country to war, the size of our economy was $18.43 billion. After the signing of this agreement in 2018, the economy dropped to $1 billion. So forget about any money coming anytime soon. There is no money in the country. And so the soldiers will continue to live on farm. They will continue to make charcoal to make a life. And there is no dignity in being a soldier in South Sudan right now. It is an embarrassment. And so I expect these people will be graduated so that they can join the club of an embarrassment. they will be embarrassed by their own leaders. People who do not see South Sudan as a country, but as a fraction. Everybody has his own fraction. And so they are likely to fall into the trap of warlords, and they will follow the people that brought them in. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abraham, for that. It's actually is something our leaders also need to look at. What kind of forces are they graduating, and what kind of forces are they unifying? And their condition after graduation will be another topic too, because nobody knows what will happen. Will their salary be increased? Will their situation change? How? And yet these people went to the training sites not by themselves, but because there are leaders who unpicks them and take them to the training site. And the reports are telling us that maybe 40% of the unified forces, most of them are civilian, mere civilians. So you just graduating high school, you go to your uncle and take you to the field so that you can be trained at the army, and you did not even get the basic training of being a soldier. It looked like a disaster, but we will see what will happen. Rajab, take over.
Thank you. Let me start from where you stopped with regard to so many of these guys were civilians. Indeed, when it came to the time for cantonment of the forces and also moving the forces from the cantonment sites to the training centers, some of these parties did not put in their actual fighting forces because they did not trust what was going to happen. So they mobilized people to go, and there was a belief that, the process was going to be good, food was going to be there, a lot of things would be there. And so people went, given the level of poverty in the country, people went with belief that there was going to be something good that they would get out of that. Their status, their economic situations would improve because of that. I personally visited some of the training centers and cantonment sites. And so people I knew who had never been in any of the forces, but I got them in the training centers. And that explains why you find so many, even women and children were taken to those places, just because there was hope that something good would come out of that. But there's something important that we need to acknowledge, and that is the leadership provided by the security mechanisms, the Joint Defense Board, the transitional security mechanisms, the JMCC and the rest, especially the JDB, the Joint Defense Board. When they were constituted, that is a combination of the leadership of the army, of the opposition groups, and also of the government at the time the agreement was signed. They started very well, and they really worked. They set out plans. They even moved to talk to the soldiers, which is something the leadership should have been doing. When the agreement was initially signed, you remember, Jokriak was the commander, the chief of defense forces, and they was shown on the national TV in the middle of the bush in Panyume, some place around Morobo, talking to the forces of the IO that peace has come, and that's why you see us together. Those are things that demonstrate that there is peace in the country. So from the side of the army, they tried their best to make the security arrangements work, but they were failed from the political side. And so the success of these guys remaining in the training centers and cantonment sites, especially in the training centers, which are all unified training centers, combining both opposition and those who are part of the SSPDF forces together. The cantonment sites are solely sites for either IO. If it's IO, it's IO. If it is government in the barracks, it's government forces, SSPDF. So now in these training centers, while they were the army leadership managed to keep these forces without any incidences of violence and so forth, in most of them, apart from others like Morot and the rest, there were still incidences of divisions that would demonstrate that these are not unified forces. One is the issue of salaries. In the training centers. In the training centers, these are supposed to be unified national force. However, if you go and check today, Those who came from the SSPDF are on salary. They are on salary. Of course, this meager salary, if at all it comes. Those who are from the other forces are not part of it, so they do not benefit from the national resources. So this is indicating to them that you are not actually the same. You are not unified. We just brought you together, but you are completely not the same. So those were things that were supposed to have been removed completely. They were supposed to be treated the same, so that they would see themselves as a national unified force. And that was not done effectively. Now, they were supposed to be trained on a unified syllabus that would combine. And for your information, this training was supposed to go to combatants, not civilians who were just pushed into these training centers. These were supposed to have been combatants, people who are already trained soldiers. So most of the training aspect was supposed to be more of political orientation, kind of telling them about how to interact with one another, how to be, loyal to the country as opposed to their parties, how to relate with the civilians, and a lot of components of international law as well, respect for human rights, and most of these, and also the revised security laws. Now, all these were not done because the syllabus was not delivered to any of the training centers. The second thing is that the laws, the security laws, which were supposed to have been approved, revised and approved, including the National Security Act and the SSPDF Act, which is known as the SPLA Act at the time, and so forth, were supposed to have been used after they were revised to train these guys. All these things were not done. So the target, the intended objective of training these people as a national unified force has not been actually achieved. They have been kept there. They have been doing more of drills and so forth. And it's only the instructors, handling them as they would wish based on their own knowledge, and it's not something so unified. So we're getting these guys out, and we have seen how the forces have been acting. They have been the National Army has been involved in criminal activities. So many, and the incident of Kajokeji, the fighting in some of the places in different parts of the country, the unlawful extrajudicial executions and so forth are part of this. And citizens see these forces really as a threat. We are simply adding to the fear of the South Sudanese citizens, and adding to the fear of people who are not going to be on regular salaries. And so they will either be relying on charcoal, as Awuolic said, which is a fact. Imagine some people who dedicated their lives to fight for this country, commandos and so on. Now, these guys are professional charcoal burners in the bush because they can't get anything to survive. And so either they rely on charcoal burning or they rely on open robbery of the citizens, like what the traffic police are doing in the middle of Juba. So there will be more roadblocks anywhere these forces are deployed, and they will be extorting money from citizens anytime they pass through those roadblocks. So it's a challenge that is being brought. You mentioned that they are inviting heads of state. This is where the agreement is more of public relations thing now. This implementation of the agreement, it's about showing to the international community, to the region, that we're doing something, so cooperate with us. Otherwise, there are so many countries in the region graduate forces throughout. It's not a matter of getting heads of states from different countries to attend these graduations. But why don't we even have these leaders going to talk to these forces themselves? You remember during the liberation struggle, during the training and graduation of forces, the commander-in-chief himself would always go. The senior commanders would go and talk to the forces and give them political orientation and so forth. These guys don't even, some of them have never seen these forces all along. I've never talked to these forces all along. And they are supposed to be going out to the people of South Sudan to tell them that we're graduating forces. They are going to be doing this. But it is more about the political actors in Juba and the international community. So the element of South Sudanese in this whole process is even not much. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Rajab Muhandis. Indeed, that is the aspect many citizens are viewing the agreement. it become like a PR issue. And our leaders, especially the Juba regime, are acting like a lazy child. And you know, lazy child always don't attract good comment from the parents. But once he or she do something positive for that day, then the child will start running to everyone that I've done this, I've done this. So it's the same thing our leaders are trying to show to the region, that we are actually pursuing and implementing the agreement. It's just a matter of time. And because of 1, 2, 3 reasons, we will leave it at that angle, and it will bring us to the issue of insecurity. And the results of these graduation forces and what you have said now, people will realize them later on, maybe before the end of this year or even next year earlier, how these soldiers will be deployed and how they will act and how they will relate to the public and to the nation. Now, immediately after the roadmap declaration, the insecurity level in the country increases, and people are asking themselves, is it a response to the revitalize or the extension periods, or what is happening? It happened in Numili Road, people died and people were killed, ambushed and killed. 7 people life were lost. Rather, it happened in Mayom County, where South Sudan People Movement, headed by Stephen Boy, Rolnyang, attacked the county commissioner, they killed him and other civilians too. And it happened on the same note between forces loyal to Stephen Simon Gatwich, rather, and Johnson Olonj. That is a Kirguang factions, which signed agreement this year in Khartoum with the Juba regime. And their delegation is currently in Juba. So people are asking themselves, what are all these syndromes? Are they showing that they are not satisfied or they are not happy with the extensions, or what is really happening in our country? Abraham, you will take lead and then Rajab will follow.
Thank you, Brother Majuk, for that question. The issue of insecurity in South Sudan is obviously the most expensive side of this situation in our country. Citizens are dying. There are a lot of opportunity costs that have been missed, and opportunities have been missed to develop the country as a result of insecurity. We believe that yes, the extension has provoked a lot of people, and that is why we see surge in violence. So on the incident related to Numili, we condemn that very seriously, because ordinary people traveling on the road are not the reason why extension happened in Juba. They just want to go about their lives. Maybe some of them were returning from refugee camps. Maybe others were going to the refugee camps. And so, anything that targets civilians who have nothing in the decision-making process in the country is not acceptable. And so we condemn that. What happened in Unity State, obviously, Rolnyang has declared his rebellion a year ago. And the manner in which the incident occurred, which targeted civilians and government installations, and the response by the government of Unity State and the government of South Sudan are characteristic of a new dimension in our country, a dimension of revenge and political grievances being mixed together. And that precedent is very dangerous. It's very dangerous for the country. Obviously, the commissioner was targeted with his family, and in response, the government went and kidnapped officers loyal to Stephen Boy Rolnyang and executed them in a manner that we saw against the law of the country. It is against the law of the country. Let me be very clear on this. And so for the government to say that they are investigating a situation, everybody saw those soldiers in the who were shooting in the video, and the man or the woman who shot that video is a hero because he documented evidentially that this execution has happened, and here are the faces of people who did it. Yeah, so and nobody has been arrested up to this time. Suggested that South Sudan has taken it's a new low in our country. We have gone so low. The only reason that incident provoked anger among citizens is because it was seen on video. But we also know that in Lake State and Warab, there have been executions. There have been extrajudicial killings, governors executing citizens, using soldiers, of course, to do the execution. This is illegal. This is not constitutional. Only a lawful court in South Sudan can execute people, but not fire squad. So there is a death penalty. Yes, but it has to be done by the court, approved by the president. So only president has power to approve an execution that has been decided by the courts. So the surge in violence definitely has two elements to it. It is a frustration that this situation is not coming to an end. The extension obviously makes it worse. And so people want to express that they are angry and therefore they can no longer tolerate this situation. The other element of it is that it is a result of disillusionment of many people, some of whom have gone to these cantonment areas for the last 3 to 4 years and nothing has happened. So they are willing to be part of any cause that is going to bring freedom. So that is why you saw that surge in violence in various parts of the country. And so we think that this is a trend. It will continue to be the case. I would not be surprised if there are going to be more rebellions in South Sudan, because it has been proven that any political exercise in South Sudan, you sign an agreement, it will not work. So you try to follow the law, it will not work. So violence seems to be the only way you can be understood. And Dr. Riek Machar has shown this, and others who have been very violent, including Johnson Olony, have proven that is how you do business. And the same thing with Gadwich Dual and many other militias. It has been proven that a force of arms gives you relevance in South Sudan. And the same thing with those of Tutkau and Munchwil themselves. These are people who came through the force of arms, using their militia that is now based in Mayom to climb to power. And so if that is the way you negotiate power in South Sudan, many people are likely to join that. From our perspective as the PCCA, we definitely denounce any form of violence, because it has proven that it doesn't work. That's why the country is not moving anywhere. We are losing lives. We are losing our money. Our economy is disappearing, and the communities are fracturing. because of violence. It is not going to take us anywhere. That's why we advocate for collective, civil, non-violent action. And so it is a very unfortunate situation provoked by the extension and by the economic conditions and by lack of political will to improve the situation in the country. So people are frustrated. They also think that taking non-violent action is slow. It doesn't bring change quickly. So they want to resort to those type of forms of violence. And it is very unfortunate, but that is the reality that we will be facing in the next few months, next few years in the country. Violence is likely to go up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Abraham. Before I move to Rajab Muhandis, there is a question here of Kid Guang faction between Johnson Olonch and Simon Gatwech. Many people are accusing government, maybe government have hand in their division and in their fight. Others went as far as saying Dr. Lamakol has joined hand with Simon Gatwech. What can you say about that?
Well, I can say that, first of all, I have no knowledge of Dr. Lamakol if he has forces. I did not know about that. But what I know is this. All these three factions fighting have an agreement with the government of President Salva Kiir Mayardit. Riek Machar has an agreement with President Kiir. We know that. Kid Guang, led by Gadwich, has an agreement with President Kiir. And Johnson Olony has a separate agreement with Awuolic forces with President Kiir. We also know that the recent movement of Johnson Olony was facilitated by the government. We have knowledge, we have intelligence about that. He was allowed to move in territories that he doesn't move in. So using motorboats, armed with heavy weapons, to go and access the sites of Gadwich and Riek Machar forces. So he was facilitated by Juba. We also know that Riek was also given weapons by Juba to defend himself against Gadwich Dual. And Gadwich Dual was also given weapons by the same government to defend himself against Riek and Johnson Olony. So now I don't want to interpret for anyone, but you can tell me what is going on here. Why do these three people have an agreement with the same government, yet they are fighting among themselves? Isn't it ironic? If you have an agreement with me and Rajab Muhandis, Rajab and I should automatically become friends because we are your friends. Where do we find animosity here? So there is a game, and the game is the intention of our president to prolong his life in government, create a lot of confusion, weaken the opposition, obliterate the terms of the agreement, and rewrite the agreement that fits him. We know this is a game. I'm not going to speak for IO, nor Johnson Olony or Gadwich Dual. It is up to them why they accept to play that game. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Abraham, for that. It's actually divided a rule to cause confusion, but the end or the backstop or all these games is the suffering of citizens. Because it's likely now reports are telling us over 7,000 people displaced last week and even this week. Remember, Upper Nile is facing challenge of floods. People did not even cultivate, and their livelihood is in danger. And now the fight also increases and make it worse. It's very unfortunate that the leadership value its position in the expense of the citizen. It's so sad. Rajab Muhandis, the chance is yours. In regard to the insecurity, the fighting between the factions of Johnson Olonge, Simon Gatwich, the Iowa at the same time, and the issue of Mayom County before we move quickly to the vote of no confidence. Thank you, Rajab.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Majok Makur. My colleague has explained it adequately, the confusion that is happening among these groups. But it also indicates, the intention of the leadership in Juba. I want to clarify one thing that is being used usually by especially the international community, that that the fighting is the violence is subnational violence in most part of the country. When fighting happens in any part of the country, it is defined as subnational violence. And there is a pretense here to project an image that the ceasefire in the country is actually working. There is peace and everything is okay, except that there's some local violence. The fact is that security is a national issue. And when there's insecurity in any part of the country, it is a national issue, and that requires a national response. If there was genuine interest by the political leaders sitting in Juba, especially the section of the government led by the president, which is the IT gun, as Awuolic mentioned, could have taken a step to actually engage these guys directly, and all this while the agreements that they signed, they could have even actually implemented those agreements. They simply caused division among those guys, and they are now using these divisions to weaken them further and destroy them as such. Well, this is a political agenda of the government, and these guys also stand to blame for why they accept to be manipulated as such, so that they would simply kill themselves and cause more harm to their own people. But I want to say, modern states are governed by political arrangement. And what we see as insecurity in any part of the country is a reflection of the political arrangement. It explains whether there is stability in the country or no stability. It explains whether there is peace in the country or there is no peace. Everything else that we see in the security situation, in the economic situation, in the humanitarian situation, the number of people resorting to survive on humanitarian aid, and also those who get displaced and who remain in the refugee camps, and all this indicate a sum total of the situation, the political situation in the country. And so this insecurity is likely simply to continue as long as the political situation is not stable. It's a manifestation of the breakdown of law and order. A situation where, there is nowhere you go to get redress when you have problems. And so it forces people to take the law into their hands. It is a situation where there are guns in the hands of everyone, and the state, which is supposed to have control over that doesn't have the control. And so anyone is free to use guns as they wish. And with that, we may be looking at a situation of having many countries now within South Sudan, many countries or many governments within the same country. Anyone with a gun is almost a government of his own. And that's exactly what is happening. You issue orders, you get people killed, you do whatever, and you are not held to account by any sovereign authority. So it's a very bad shape. A situation and a bad place for a country to be. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rajab, Muhandis, for that. Is actually sad and unfortunate, but we will keep talking and see what the future holds for South Sudan as the country. All of us, and we have seen the horrible extrajudicial killing in Mayom County on the 8th of this month. And immediately after the extrajudicial killing in Mayom, the Sudan military government or military council, which were accused of capturing these soldiers or officers and handing over them to the government of unity state, the leadership took decision to suspend or even to fire the governor of Western Kordofan, the commissioner of Fula, and the head of Sudan forces in that area of Fula. And everyone were looking at South Sudan government, what will be the reaction from South Sudan leadership toward these horrible clips which were recorded in order to redeem the image of the country. Up to now, we are yet to see the reactions from the government, but most of them came out publicly and told us that they did not order any extrajudicial killing or fire squatting. The speaker or the spokesperson of the government, Michael McQuay, came out and condemned it. The Minister of Defense, Angelina Tang, came out and condemned the killing. The same thing to the spokesperson of SSPDF, including the Chief of General Staff. Now, people were asking themselves, if nobody out of this rank gave the order to execute these officers, then who gave the orders? To the Mayom governor. And if there were nobody, then where did the governor derive his powers from to carry out such extrajudicial killing? It is not only damaging the current leadership image, but it has also tarnished the image of South Sudan in the eye of the region and in the eye of the international community. And it has already gone down in the history as the bad record of the current regime in Juba. Of course, the leadership went silent, and the Council of Ministers took it upon themselves to summon the governor to come and clarify this issue. And throughout his remark, Governor Montreal, it seemed like he did not convince the Council of State, and that's why Council of State moved the vote of no confidence against him. And they appealed to the leadership of the president to consider and act on their directives. Yesterday, we have seen the reaction from the minister in the office of president, Dr. Mariel Benjamin, challenging the Council of Ministers' decision. And we have also read the reaction and heard the reaction from the SPLM secretariat, condemning them that they have taken wrong decision. They would have consulted the party on what to do. Kindly, we really need your wisdom here, because this is a matter of the national image. It is not a matter of party, and it is not even a matter of president now. It has tarnished the entire image of South Sudan. I will start with Rajab Muhandis, and Abraham Wait will follow. Rajab, can you give us your perspective? And as you are giving us your perspective too, you will tell us whether the president will follow exactly what the Council of Ministers directed him to do. And if not, then you will tell us the fears. What are the fears that the president feared to act? If president always act merely, it has terminated 3 governors in Lagos State simply because they were fired in Lagos State. Why is it president is not using the same powers to redeem his image? Thank you, Rajab Muhandis.
Thank you very much. First of all, that incident was so unfortunate and very sad, especially for a country that is supposed to be pursuing genuine peace, that's supposed to be working for peace. And as I mentioned earlier, this is all about leadership, and it's a demonstration of the weaknesses of the political leadership in the country and the tolerance of such incidences. You referenced the leadership in Sudan that acted immediately on this issue, on its officials when they heard of this incident, when this incident happened. All those who were in charge of the area where this incident happened, governor, head of the army, and so forth, were immediately, punished or something like that. They were suspended and all that. Now, it is even very sad for our case that the Council of Ministers would struggle to get the leadership in the country to act. See what happened in Sudan. There was nothing like investigation. They know that there are people in charge of the area, and that is what we would have expected from this from our situation in South Sudan. But here is the thing. The issue of divisions in the country where communities are divided for the political interests by the political leaders in the country is partly also what is happening in Unity State. There are several sections of groups in Unity State, and each politician in Juba has a section that he works with, and so the governor in Unity State is someone who has been in support or an ally of the president in Juba very much. And you may be aware that most of these guys have militias behind them who are also affiliates of some of these political leaders in Juba, particularly the president. And so punishing them is actually like removing part of your support. And that explains partly why they are so reluctant to act on this issue. And again, from, as you mentioned, the spokesperson of the army, the chief of defense forces, and the minister of defense, all of them condemned this incident, including the spokesperson of the government, indicating that there is really frustration even within the government about what has happened. And in a normal setting, the chief of defense forces could have actually, and the minister of defense could have actually acted, especially on the soldiers, either punishing them or summoning them to Juba, or actually arresting them. But this issue is more political than military, and that's why the military section of it, the Minister of Defense and the SSPDF leadership, are completely powerless. And the reaction of the office of the president in arguing with the Council of States is also unfortunate, because the country, I would have expected to see a response, a quick, immediate response like what happened in Sudan. And this did not happen. So we see a situation where there is tolerance for such incidences, and when crimes are not punished well, definitely there's no reason, there's no they will always continue. And of course you saw that incident when that happened in Mayo. It was followed by the death of an officer in Yei who appeared to have also been tortured to death at the military barracks. And again, the army just said they are going to investigate and so forth. So we're seeing a situation where the political leaders rely on the support of this, and they do not want to annoy the military officers and some of these guys who manage these militias, and they tread carefully and do not want to act on these issues. That means actually the law itself, whether it is the constitution or the SSPDF Act or whichever law that applies, is actually not being applied. It is a matter of simply trying to tread carefully and maintain support from some of these individuals who commit these crimes, and so it presents an image that these things are likely to even happen more. But here is the thing, as Awuolic mentioned, these are the ones that only came to light. There are many of such incidences that are happening that have not been recorded and made public, and so we are in a very bad shape as a country at the moment when we reflect on these issues. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Before we go to Abraham Awuolic, you have mentioned, Rajab, that the president could possibly be too slow to act simply because the governor of Unity State is close friends and his supporter. Are you saying that is the fear the president that has tied his hand not to act? Considering when president was meeting with the governor, the body language of the president was speaking volume. But why is president not acting on that? Thank you.
Well, the body language is one thing, but really the demonstration and the use of authority is another. Salva Kiir, as the president of the country, who is the appointing authority to the governor and who is also the commander-in-chief of the forces, has authority over the governor and also has authority over the forces. He should have simply used orders. What does he discuss with the governor? In a situation like this, something like that happened in your position. In fact, he's also showing to the rest of the people in the rest of the places that he is not fully in control of the country, and that, in other words, if another authority, another governor happens to behave the same way, or anything happens to be done in the same way in any other state, he will find it very difficult to punish either the officers or the governor, because this question will arise. You left the other one the other day, and why do you want to act on this? And so I contend that the president is not using the authority constitutionally vested in him to protect the citizens of South Sudan against such crimes. And this is extremely unfortunate. I want to again reference the situation in Sudan, that the authority never needed any explanation from any of those who were in the area, the governor or the army commander or the security officers. Immediately they got fired. What explanation does he need? Even for him, after such an incident happened in his state, for the governor to go and sit with the president at the presidential palace is a shame. I would leave it here. Thank you.
Very unfortunate indeed. And this thing will be so sad if our children will grow up later on and start reading them. They will even say this thing did not happen in the country, but actually they happen during our lifetime. Abraham?
Well, thank you very much. I think my colleague Rajab Muhandis has exhausted the matter. What I want to add is that I want to cite the Constitution, and not to say that this Constitution is effectively in use right now in South Sudan. We are a lawless nation right now, and I want to cite the Constitution and Article 58 of our Constitution, which is the basis of the basis of the decision of the Council of State, and it talks about the powers. The Article 59, the competences of the Council of State, and so they it is Article B, Article 59B. It says the Council of State shall issue resolutions and directives that may guide all levels of government in accordance with the provisions of Article 47, 48, and 49. And obviously, Article 47, 48, and 49 is about intergovernmental linkages, how the governments will relate to each other. So they did this. The Constitution is not constraining the Council of State here. It says it can issue resolutions and directives that may guide all levels of government. So what the Council of State did is, of course, constitutional. That was a directive, and it was a resolution, and it was recommended to the president. So I think within that constitutional powers, the state is right. Now, if you go to Article 101R, which is, these are the two articles that have destroyed South Sudan, Article 101, R and S. These articles, I will cite them. These are the articles that the president always cite. Article R says the president has powers to remove a governor or dissolve a state legislative assembly in the event of a crisis in the state that threatens national security and territorial integrity. Number 2, which is S, appoint a state caretaker governor who shall prepare for elections within 60 days in the state where the governor has been removed or the state legislative assembly so dissolved in accordance with the provision of this constitution. I mean, I'm making these statements because the president is not following the constitution, okay? Yes, he has powers to remove governors or resolve state legislative assemblies, but the same article that gives him power to remove people also force him to conduct elections within 60 days. What happened to that part of the article? Why is it not being followed? And so, so on this particular issue with regard to the governor of Unity State, I also want to cite the same article, Article 101. This is a constitutional matter. It says, Article 101H says the president shall confirm death sentence, grants pardons, and remit convictions or penalties according to this constitution and the law. So no one in this country has power to execute anyone except the court. Even the president doesn't have that power. He can only confirm. This is the word the constitution uses. He can only confirm death penalties that have been issued by the court, period. So even if you want to explore whether the governor was given orders by somebody, nobody can give him that order according to the law. The court cannot even give orders because the court has to sit down and do the due process. So really, this is a no-brainer. There is no need to debate this matter. Constitution was broken. Civil rights, and I want to cite the constitution again. And I want to go to article, the right to life. I will cite the article. Let me just go there. Because these are important matters that must be based in the law. It is actually one of the first rights in the Bill of Rights. So I'm going to get that. Life and human dignity. So it says, this is Article 11 of our Constitution. It says every person has the inherent right to life, dignity, and integrity of his or her person, which shall be protected by law, and no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his life and her life. This is a constitution, Article 11 of our Constitution. So these men who were executed were arbitrarily denied life. And that is a violation of the Constitution. So there is nothing to be debated about it. We saw it being done on camera. And so a whole lot of people should have been arrested on that day. And then investigation happens while they are in jail already, including the governor himself, who was present, who was personally present on the site of the execution. So the commander of that force, which is Division 4, should have been arrested on that day, the governor and anyone else who was there. And then now the investigation done by the court, not anyone else, will then free those people who are considered innocent. We should not be talking about whether somebody should be fired or not. This should have happened automatically. So the fact that the president is unwilling to act in protecting the Constitution, which is another violation of the Constitution, and I must cite it because this is important. When the president is sworn in, let me go there first. I will cite the article. So Article 99, which is the oath of office of the president. I must read it all so that we understand. This is the obligation that the president has. It says, I, the president, of course, in this case, Salva Kiir, do hereby swear by the Almighty God and solemnly affirm that as the President of the Republic of South Sudan, I shall be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Republic of South Sudan, and shall diligently and honestly discharge my duties and responsibilities in a consultative manner to foster the development and welfare of the people of South Sudan, and I shall obey, preserve, and defend the Constitution and abide by the law, and that I shall protect and promote the unity of the people of South Sudan. Let me not read the rest. The president has violated this oath of office so many times. He is not protecting the Constitution, he is not preserving it, he is not defending it. And so by him remaining silent and trying to protect the governor of Unity State, we must presume that the president himself ordered the execution of the four men, and therefore the president is stand charged. If we had any law in the country, the president himself need to be placed under investigation for killing and taking lives of people arbitrarily, not in accordance with the Constitution, and for him failing to uphold the Constitution, which was violated. Article 11 of the Constitution was violated when these men were executed. And so really, this is what I can say about this. This is a country that has become lawless. The Constitution is there, but the president picks and chooses which articles of the Constitution works for him, and he ignores the rest that bind his hand. So this alone is a violation of Article 99 of our Constitution, which is the oath of office of the president. And so this is where we are, and I think that what happened in Unity State is going to haunt the country for a long time. It is going to affect the people of Unity for a very long time. The community is going to be bitterly divided, and there are going to be revenge killings that will happen, high-profile revenge killings, because this incident has been allowed to happen, and without any accountability. Anyone can get up any time and shoot a senior or high-level person in South Sudan as a revenge because the law did not stand with them. So this is what happens when the law doesn't come to people's aid at the time of their need. They will begin to take matters into their own hand. And we have seen this. This is how this country got itself into this crisis. It is when men who are charged with the responsibility and sworn in to protect this country and its people fail to uphold their duties, that's when the country falls apart. And I really don't know how much more I can tell the people of South Sudan that they are being misled. They are not being properly led in their country. And those people that they trust with their lives have failed them and are not living up to what they were assigned to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abraham Awuolic, for that response and referring us and our viewers to the Constitution. Basically, it was said by White some time back that if you want to hide anything from the black man, put it in writing. Exactly, it has happened. Many citizens don't even know what the Constitution said, including government officials. Most of them now being appointed every now and then. If you ask them, the article that gave their boss power to appoint them and relieve them anytime, they will not even sign that article. It's very unfortunate. South students need civic education thoroughly for them to know what is their right and what is their duty and what should be the boundaries and right and limits of their leaders. But we are not giving time to that. And that is why the leadership is using the Constitution to hit every man's head, whether you are right or wrong. And to some extent, it can even skip at the wrongdoers and hit the right doers' head. It's very sad and very unfortunate. Rajab, Muhandis, if you have anything to interject before we move to the question of the hyperinflations in our country, and as you know, a hungry man cannot have time to negotiate or even to understand, and that will be our next topic of discussions. Thereafter, we move to the issue of non-signatories South Sudan opposition group, which will be the last in our desk. Thank you.
Well, this question, I guess, has been adequately exhausted, and I would say South Sudanese continue to watch what the president is going to do with this matter, and I would suggest that we move on to the next question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I will start with Abraham Awuolic. We have heard and we have read and we have seen the crisis in our country, especially the economic crisis. And the salaries now, both army, civil servants, are not even on time. And besides the salaries, people to the extent last week but once, at the courtesy of iRadio, there was a patient in Wow teaching hospital. This patient was due to be operated, but it was told by the doctors that we don't have power, so you have to wait. The patient had to value his life and the little resources he had. He had no option than to tell them that I will go and buy the fuels, and then you have to go on with the operation. The patient did that to save his lives. Now the inflation in the market is so high, and as you mentioned before, our GDP now as the country is 2 billion, which is equivalent with the China debt on South Sudan. The China debt now is more than 2 billion US dollars. Apart from other debts, our country is borrowing. And recently we have seen the security advisor, the president, is so much into the Arab world, borrowing a lot of money. And people don't even know where this money normally go. So exactly what can president or the nation do, according to you as Abraham Awuolic, to rescue this collapsed economy? Because if not, then time will come for citizens not to be threatened anymore. Because when your stomach is hungry on a daily basis and somebody is playing with the money at your doorstep, you'll be forced to go and rob the rich people, and the country will be in crisis. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brother Majuk. This is a topic that I'm very passionate about because it is at the bottom of everything. People need power so that they can eat. People need nuclear weapons to protect their food. Everything is about eating. It is about money. And we should not forget about it. So this is the bottom line. We all need dignity. We all need this. But the bottom line is we must eat. And let me give you some scary statistics. It has been established by research that when the GDP of of a country falls, especially in what they call fragile countries, it is followed immediately by a civil war. And unfortunately, it is very true in our country. When we say President Kiir failed the country, we are not talking out of hatred of a man. We have no personal issues with our president. He's a honorable man. As a person, as a husband, as a man, as a father. But as a president, he did a lot of damage to our country. One of what took South Sudan to war in 2013 are two decisions that the president made together with the government. The shutdown of oil led to 49% drop in the GDP of South Sudan in 2012. And the next year we had a civil war. It's a scientific playbook. It's right there. You don't even need to, you really don't even have to search too long for a long time for it. It has already been established that if a GDP drop at a certain level, at least by 5%, civil war is likely to happen. And this has happened in a fragile country. So you made a decision to shut down the only commodity that gives you 98% of your revenue. So that was a fateful decision. Number two, maybe the decisions are actually three. Number two is a decision to go to war with Sudan on Awuolic. South Sudan, at that fragile moment, did not need any war whatsoever. Even if it means you go to New York to complain, even if it means you go to the African Court of Justice, you go to court but don't go to war. Because you are the youngest country, you have no institution, you have no economy. You need to grow, you need to live. But we made that decision. And the third decision was for the president, which was the last kick on the dying horse, was to dissolve a coalition government, a government that brought a decision that undermined the policy of the president himself, the policy of Big Ten. Create a Big Ten that accommodates everyone. Then you go ahead and dissolve that government. This was the beginning of the destruction of South Sudan. And hold those three things very carefully. History will write those things to be true. And so I'm just giving a background. So even when the shutdown happened in 2012, the economy didn't, of course, decline by 49%, but South Sudan's economy was still doing well. As I said before, our GDP, the volume of our economy at that time was 18.4 billion. Now, when the conflict went on, that money disappeared. The volume of the economy began to shrink. There was no injection of cash. Whatever little cash we get, we use it for weapons. Weapons are not productive things, so they go to waste. You shoot one ballistic missile, Kalas is gone. Your $25,000 is gone in one shot. And so the economy shrunk and shrunk and shrunk. So by the time they signed this agreement that we are talking about, the economy had hit a rock bottom at $1 billion. $18 billion was not enough for the whole country, but life was a little bit okay. Now imagine economy of $1 billion. There is no money to go around. Even Juba itself, it cannot sustain Juba. So that is where we are. The economy of South Sudan, by that time, the economy of South Sudan was 6 times the economy of Somalia. Today, the economy of Somalia is twice the economy of South Sudan. And so if you cannot manage an economy, please don't be a leader. You're killing your own people. So that is what has happened to the economy of South Sudan. So it is very unfortunate to tell our people that there is a saying in our community, and it may be true everywhere, that when it is raining too much, there is that type of an eagle. It would tell its children that, when it stops raining, I will make a better house for you. So let this is the last rain, and then I'm going to make I will make a better house so that it doesn't rain on you. Now at the end, after the rain is gone, it will tell its children that the sky is flat, so the water might have gone all, so it will not rain again. And it will go on to pick other things. This is a situation we are facing in South Sudan. The other saying is that the monkeys, when it is raining and they are cold, they make an imaginary fire. And then they would sit around and say, okay, the smoke is too much. When there is no fire and there is no smoke. This is the same situation in South Sudan. People are sitting around an imaginary fire, hoping that the economy is going to improve. It will not. Because the ingredients that make economy improve are not there. One of them is governance and leadership. You don't have it. Another one is capital. Everyone with his capital is running away in South Sudan. Why would you want to go in unless you are crazy? So you said, what can the president do? The best the president can do now is to go home. He is incapable of running this economy. He cannot fix it. He cannot give us peace. He cannot give us security. And he cannot give us institutions of governance. He is destroying them. And so without those 3 ingredients, forget about it. Economic growth can only be experienced when you have enough capital inside the country, the skills of citizens, the regulations, and governance. These are the 4 elements. If you don't have those, forget. It's not going to happen. So the economy of South Sudan is likely actually to shrink. And I would not be surprised if this economy actually goes below $1 billion. And if it goes below $1 billion, I would go to the refugee camp, because what is going to follow is violence. This is scientifically proven. So violence is going to increase as the economy goes down. And it is not going to be explained why is there violence. Violence is just automatically going to happen because people are fighting to live. They will be looting each other. So really, the economy of South Sudan is not anything to speak of. You cannot borrow. Borrowing is a function of credibility. If you don't know me, you can give me a loan. But if I come back for a second loan and I have known your hand, I would not give you a loan. So South Sudan's reputation within the international system is bad. It's known that they have poor leadership, they have poor public financial management, and if anything to go by, look at the Ministry of Finance and the central bank. Which country changes central bank every other day? It doesn't happen. There are central bank governors who are there for over 15 years. That is important because that is stability. That is giving assurance to the investors that their money is going to grow. So, but in our country, a governor is changed every 6 months, every 1 year. There is no stability, and so I'm really sympathetic to the people of South Sudan. Last week, a friend of ours gave us some statistics. When I was kicked out in Juba in August last year, a kilo of meat, a kilo of goat meat used to cost 1,200 pounds. Today, a kilo of meat is ranging between 6 to 7,000 pounds. That is one statistics. The salary of a soldier is 1,500. So let us put that as the baseline. Now, water, a barrel of water, this is how many people get their water in Cuba. It used to cost between 300 to 500 pounds. Right now, it is 1,500 to 2,000 pounds. So if you are a soldier, you go and receive your month's salary, you come and buy one barrel of water, and people can decide whether to drink it or to shower with it because there is nothing to cook. So this is the situation that the country is facing right now. So there is nothing in the plan to extend this government that is going to give our citizens assurance that their lives are going to improve. It will only get worse, and I fear the worst. And as the economy tank, people will die, and of course, violence is going to go up. This is scientifically proven to be the case. So I'm very sad. There is nothing to hope for, and there is no relief in sight. Nobody is going to give you enough money to jumpstart the economy. It's just not going to happen unless you first must fix your political situation. And the extension is an indication that the political situation is uncertain, that the leadership is not strong, and that the election, which would have brought in a government with more legitimacy, is no longer possible. So you have to expect that more people will take their money out of the economy. And so unless you fix the political side of things and the security side of things, let us then come back after that to talk about what to do with the economy. Before you do that, forget about talking about any economy right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Abraham, for giving us such statistics and some of the realities on the ground. It's very unfortunate. This morning, I spoke to one of my colleagues in Juba, and exactly he told me the same thing, that the situation now in Juba is worse than the situation of last year. And then if future is becoming so darker compared to yesterday, then there is no future. Because people tend to believe that the future should be bright and future should give you a sense of seeing light. But now our future is not giving us a sense of seeing light. In fact, people are seeing darkness coming every now and then in the country. It's very unfortunate. Rajab, Muhandis, chance is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, my colleague has explained this very well. The whole thing, we believe, is about the political instability and the insecurity in the country, and so these two affect the economic situation, and they also, reinforce each other. When the economy continues to fail the way it is happening now, we will always have more violence, because there would be food-related insecurity. Like, people would begin to form criminal groups in order to rob so they could survive. So that is going to increase, and there would be more struggle for resources in different ways, and therefore the insecurity will increase. But that increase in insecurity also continues to demolish the economy, whatever is left of the economy. So we have two unfortunate situations which will continue to reinforce each other and continue to affect the economy and the security situation. But again, here is a verdict that we should look at very, very clearly and actually help us to take decision. That the agreement was actually meant to fix the economy. That was one thing. That was one objective of the agreement when it was revitalized, and of course to address the security issue and the political instability. Now, when the agreement was signed in 2018, the dollar, South Sudanese pounds were selling at 22 pounds, around 22 pounds or less for a dollar. And if the agreement was meeting its intended objectives, we would have seen strengthening of the South Sudanese dollars. I mean pounds, which means it would have come down maybe to $10 or $5 for 5 pounds for a dollar or something. Where are we now? It's over $600. I mean pounds for a dollar, and there is no clear sign that it's going to go down. We have seen a lot of effort in Juba by the government and some of the international partners in the economic, management reforms, that they were trying to do reforms in the economy, and money would be injected into the economy. Dollars would be sold every week or something like that. Where did this take us? It hasn't taken us anywhere, because this whole thing is not addressing the economic situation itself. And it goes back to the issue of political leadership and the security situation. Unless you address those ones, we have always said the economy is simply a victim of the political crisis in the country. And as long as the political crisis continues, the economy will continue to fail. So we don't see any hope in this economic situation. But again, it is another time bomb. People are not going to continue to stay and starve to death, especially those holding guns in their hands. They are not going to continue to bear this situation indefinitely. And so this deliberate decision of the political leaders not to deliver peace that would then help to improve the rest of the situations, the economy, the sectors, the economy, the humanitarian situation, and the rest, is in itself a problem that would turn to haunt them. And this is likely to happen as the economic situation continues to fail. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rajab Muhandis. It's sometimes it's hard to comprehend the situation in our country, and we will wait and see what South Sudan will do, considering the economic recession which is about to hit the entire world due to the eastern part of Europe war between Russia and Ukraine, and also the tension between the US and China over Taiwan. Nobody knows what will happen before the end of this year. And if countries like the US are feeling the effect of Russia and Ukraine war, and the entire Europe is now struggling, then what of the countries like South Sudan, who depend only on one and only one commodity, and that is oil? And the money also from oils are not even being managed accordingly. And the oil is already pre-sold up to 2027. And if our oil is still with South Sudan now, South Sudan would have been making a lot of money, seeing the prices of oil is so high than ever before in the history of oil market due to the crisis in Russia and Ukraine. It's very unfortunate indeed, and we will see whether the degrees will change anything between central bank and the Ministry of Finance. These are the only victims always. And now we are moving to our last topic of our discussions, because we have taken a lot of your time, and because we were actually trying to engage in several topics. Maybe next time we'll try to narrow them down to one specific topic so that we can exhaust them. We have had at the recent past the new alignment of political parties, and that is non-signatories South Sudan Opposition Party. Okay, let's go. Let's go. I don't really know what will happen with other opposition parties, but the question is, as PCCA, are you part of it or not? And if you are part of it, what are your objectives? Thank you. You can start Rajab Muhandis, then we move to Awuolic.
Thank you very much, brother Majok Makur, for this question. We are aware of this call for roundtable discussion and the call for people to unite to pull together across the different divides. We are very much part of this, and it's an idea that we initiated also way back in March 15th, around that, when we wrote to IGAD saying that the agreement was no longer, the agreement was a total failure, and so it was important to consider other options. And what we suggested was this idea of a political dialogue that would then allow South Sudanese to decide really to redefine a new path for the country. And with that, we engaged with the different political actors and moved on to this idea of coming together for the round table. We believe that it is important for us all as South Sudanese really to sit back, to sit down around a table and have a discussion on the situation in our country. Again, agree on the South Sudan we want, and also how we would get it, or how we would get there to that country that we want. And we believe that there is no shortage of knowledge on what we wanted and what to take to get the country out of this crisis. The only thing is that people are stuck and also wrongly believing that there is only one alternative to the situation. There is only one way to the situation, to get South Sudan out of this situation, and that is to implement an agreement that we all know has stalled in any way. And so this call is legitimate, and it is important that we use peaceful means, and most importantly, an inclusive dialogue to decide on how we move forward from where we are, where the country is completely stuck and almost everything continues to fail. The politics continues to fail, the economy continues to fail, the security continues to fail, and so forth. So moving on with what we have, the way it is now, the way the country is, doesn't present a good alternative and path out of this crisis at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rajab Muhandis, for that elaboration. We will move to Awuolic to give us his perspective too in regard to the non-signatories South Sudan opposition group. And also, as you will make your remark, Abraham, we also need to know how many opposition groups that came together under non-signatories. Thank you, Abraham.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Majok. The PCCA declaration has, under Article 3, under what we call purpose and principles of the coalition, we have a number of objectives, and one of them is the desire to create a stable political system. And to create a political system, we have about 7 principles. One of the principles is dialogue. And in that we say dialogue is a fundamental tool that is important for repairing and building a divided society like South Sudan. And so on the basis of that principle, we reach out to various groups, civil society, political, and even armed groups, so that we can dialogue. And the dialogue that we are having is based on two important questions. What is our understanding of what is wrong with our country? So if we have understanding of that, then the natural question that comes next is, how do we solve it? And so that is what we believe, that for people to do one thing, they must have the same understanding of what the problem is. Then when they have the same understanding of what the problem is, they are likely also to adopt solutions that are coming from that understanding. And so on the basis of that, we reach out to various groups, engaging them, particularly the group that is known as the SOMA. We later on broke up into two. One group was Paul Malong and Pagana Mom, and the other group was Thomas Shirillo, Emmanuel Ajawin, and others. So we interacted with them individually, and then later on, they came together, and now we are interacting with them as a group of 6. They call themselves non-signatory groups. So we have reached out also to other civil society organizations like the United Citizens for Peace, the National Movement for National People's Movement, the Red Card Movement, the Sudan People's South Sudan People's Movement, and so on and so forth. So these groups came together to deliberate on the question of the extension of the peace agreement. What is our view? And we have agreed, and we have discussed and agreed that we all reject that extension, and that we are calling for the roundtable, political roundtable. So this is consistent with our non-violent action process. So we are saying, instead of us fighting, let us go to the table. Let us go to the table with the government and everybody else to talk about the future of South Sudan. So this is important because we are trying to change the equation. That right now, every South Sudanese believe that the only way you can address your grievances is through violence. We are trying to say, no, it doesn't have to be violence. There are other options that are more powerful, and that include being able to engage and talk about issues and produce ideas that are attractive to citizens, which will then attract their support. And if you have the support of majority of citizens, your voice is likely to be recognized and people will listen to you. So this is the culture that we are trying to promote, and so far we are going very well. We have not gone deep. We are only dealing with the issues that are urgent, the extension and the election. So we are saying the conditions are not right for an election right now. The conditions are also not right for this agreement to be extended, for the government to be extended. There is a need for an inclusive roundtable that will create a new national consensus, the basis of which you can move the country forward. If the government doesn't take that, of course, there are violent organizations that are there. They are already fighting against the government. They will continue to cause insecurity, and the peace that we also desire will not come. And let me tell you, even a handful of citizens who are not happy can destroy and derail the whole peace agreement. They can derail the peace in the country. Those bandits who go and ambush people on Numili Road or other roads, that is not good for the country. It only tells the investors and others that that country is not stable. So our advice to the government and even the opposition or the groups that have signed the Artigono agreement, they should need to think about this issue of the round table. This is the only way out. And this is the only way out for South Sudan. We don't want another peace agreement. And when we talk about the round table, we are very clear. We are not going to negotiate how to share power or how to be given some positions in the government. That is not the case. The negotiation or the round table will be dealing with the transition of leadership. We need a new leadership, and therefore, to get a new leadership, everybody who is currently a political actor steps out of political space, give technical people a transition of 12 months or 18 months, whatever the case may be, to organize an election in which they will not participate. And then people go directly to elections, and the new leadership with the new mandate of the people of South Sudan will then finalize everything else. So that is our position, and that is what we believe. And you need to do that. You cannot talk about the unity of the people of South Sudan if you are not willing to talk about with people that have similar views with you. And so that is why we have started with ourselves. We have said, even though we are non-violent, we are even willing to engage with violent organizations. We are willing to engage with other civil society organizations, with other non-violent movements, because doing so is the definition of South Sudan. You cannot be exclusive. You cannot say, I don't want to talk to so-and-so. I don't like so. It is not your choice. You don't have a choice. These people need to be on the table. And that is the new culture that we want to cultivate in South Sudan. And we are looking forward to working with this group of citizens who are dedicated to change so that our country can regain its dignity and legitimacy once more. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Awuolic and Rajab Muhandis. Thank you for everything, your time, your thoughts, your opinions, and your positions as PCCA alongside other political parties or oppositions under umbrella of non-signatory South Sudan Opposition Group. I have 3 questions under the comment section. They will be displayed so that you can also shed more light on those questions. Thereafter, you'll give your last remark. The first question is from Nyang Alwell. Do we have political parties in South Sudan or rebel tribal parties? So I think that's one question. And next question, my question to Rajab and Abraham is, what do they think about the political challenges facing the country now that PCCA will be 1 year and one of their leaders is in prison and they are exiled, and the transitional government of national unity are now comfortable with the ways things are going? That is Abraham Akar Gol. Then the next questions are from Akol or Akol. Ahol. That is H. Yeah. Ahol Paul is, I would like to ask these questions if Abraham and Raja will put it clearly. Now the Juba government voted for no confidence on the governor of Unity State. Was it right to do to be impeached? Yeah, actually, those are the 3 questions. The first question is whether we have political parties or rebels parties. And the second question is about your colleague, which is Quill, still now in the prison and is also sick. You need to talk more about that. And the last questions, as you have just read, is about what you answered earlier, especially 2 of you, in regard to the vote of no confidence in Unity State Governor. Thank you so much, Abraham Awuolic.
Right.
You can take the lead, and then Abraham
Rajab
will follow.
I can tell the listener that there are political parties with genuine manifestos in South Sudan. What is lacking is that there is no space for them to operate and to function. The president, by a number of his decisions early on when he was creating his Big Ten policy, gave incentives not to civil discourse, but to violent discourse. That's why we have seen the rise of warlords. And so traditional political parties do not exist. They exist nominally and they exist in terms of the robust mandate that they want to offer to the people of South Sudan. But they have no space. The space is only available to the warlords. And the warlords, of course, mobilize people that listen to them from their ethnic or tribal groups. So that is why you see the current parties are ethnic outfits. They are not national in their outlook because they are militias. They are not political parties. But you have traditional parties. You have ANC. You have this SANU. You have others. They have articulated their vision so clearly, but they have not been given a political space. Even the SPLM, I was so pitiful of the political affairs officer of the SPLM coming out to say, listen, the Council of State should not make a decision without coming to the party. Give me a break. The Council of State is the authority in South Sudan. SPLM is just a political party. Once the Council of State make a decision, the party is totally irrelevant. They have a constitutional power. SPLM doesn't have a constitutional power to make decisions in South Sudan. But the members of the SPLM given through the party to the Council of State, once they make a decision, it is a national decision. It's not an SPLM decision. It was a total embarrassment for the SPLM secretariat to come to the podium and knowing the truth, and they had difficulty expressing themselves because they know what they were talking about is illegal and wrong. But they were pressured. They were pressured by the political forces in the country. So I don't blame the political parties. The political parties are okay. Their platforms are nationalistic. But the president, because of series of decisions that he has made, gave incentive to the warlords, not to the civil discourse, which usually comes through the political parties. This is the bottom line. This is the truth about what is happening in the country. On the other question about whether what the PCCA think now that it has come to 1 year with our colleague remaining in prison and the government now being happy that we are in exile and Kwela Agweri is in jail. What I can assure you, my fellow citizen, is that President Kiir and the government in Juba will have no choice but to release Kwela Agweri because the people of South Sudan will demand it. They will have no choice, but Rajab Muhandis and Awuolic will come to Juba because the people of South Sudan will demand it. That is the bottom line. And so much as they are appearing to be comfortable now, let us talk about it in 3 months or in 4 months. The situation will be different. The people of South Sudan will be frustrated and they will know that we are telling the truth. Everything we have said so far, we had predicted so far, has happened. We told the people that election was not going to happen. It didn't. We told people that these people will not implement the peace agreement. The agreement is broken. It has happened. So other things we told the people have come to pass. We are not lying to them. We are not deceiving them. And we are not looking for power. We are looking for genuine change. And people cannot change anything unless they know the truth about the matter that is happening in the country. On the issue of the governor, we spoke earlier, maybe the questioner, the person who asked the question was late. The Council of State has a constitutional mandate. Article 59, as I have read previously, gives them that power, that they have a power to issue resolutions and directives on matters that are important in running the states. And so what they did, they passed a resolution, a motion, and they gave directive to the president. So they have the constitutional power. But the question, even more important, is that did we actually need the Council of State to act? They did the right thing. They realized that the constitution was violated and they acted. What about the president? Why is the president silent? And we have said previously that the president is also accused in the arbitrary execution of the 4 people that were executed in Unity State. And we have on confirmed reports, of course, that the man who took the pictures of the person being burned in the hut and who took the video of people being executed was also executed. We did not confirm it, but we have heard that the man was executed. So, fellow citizens, this is the state of affairs that we are facing in our country. Governor Mointil was duly impeached by the Council of State. President should honor that and fire the man. This is the bottom line. If the president does not do that, then we must really declare our constitution to have died, because the president does not live by the constitution. He does not uphold his oath of office, and he has simply failed. And it is the situation that it is the truth about the country. The president does not respect the constitution, does not respect the will of the people, and does not care about the welfare of the people of South Sudan. Otherwise, he should not have waited for the Council of State to take action. He should have taken action immediately by placing everybody under arrest who had the authority to authorize such actions. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abraham, for the response to those 3 questions. We move to Rajab Muhandis. The floor is yours.
Good. Thank you very much. And thank you, Chief Awuolic, for doing justice to these questions by answering them adequately. I will just add a couple of things. And the first is on the question of whether South Sudan has political parties or rebel parties or something like that. Well, we know that the country went to war when there were political parties. There is what they call the Political Parties Council that is in charge of registration and management of issues of political parties in the country. That existed before, and there were many parties that were registered, dozens of parties that were registered under that organization, a body. And the agreement also provided for quick amendment of the Political Parties Act to allow political parties to register. And so by signing the agreement, those who signed the agreement actually got transformed from rebel groups to form the unity government that we have in the country. There is the temptation to obviously look at some of the parties as rebels, but if you now go deeper, there is no government that will have a rebel vice president or several rebel vice presidents and ministers and members of parliament. So it's in the spirit of the agreement, what is constituted is a unity government. And if we want to look at some of the parties as rebels because they have been in the bush, then actually all of them are going to be rebels, including the SPLM, because this came out of the bush to the government. So if we want to speak the language of peace, we have to look at it as an arrangement that is meant to deliver peace, and that it is also transformative from whatever groups that existed. These groups have now formed the unity government in the country. They are in the process. They are supposed to be in the process of registration and engagement of parties and all this. But political parties are functions of democracy, and they exist where there is democracy. Now, the way the country is shaped up, they have no way to practice democratic activities, including engagement with the public and sharing their vision and all this. So all those options have been closed, and this also, makes political engagements unfavorable, and makes even rebellion more attractive. Because if you cannot engage and share your views and contribute to change peacefully through the established political arrangements, then it forces people to look for other alternatives. So one would actually encourage that when there is an arrangement, it's supposed to be followed. But of course, we know what is happening with the whole thing. So the political parties exist. It's only that the conditions do not exist for them to operate as political parties. The second thing is with regard to 1 year of the PCCA. We have been, in existence for 1 year as the coalition, and it was out of our choice to take this position of really informing South Sudanese that things are not right in the country. You may be aware that I was at the center of the peace process. I represented civil society in the negotiations as a delegate, and I also represented civil society in the RJMEC, the highest oversight mechanism of the peace agreement. And out of those engagements, I came to the conclusion that, the purpose for which I was sitting in this mechanism was not being achieved. It was to deliver peace to the citizens, and that one had the obligation to get back to the citizens and say, this is the progress that is being made. And sitting in those mechanisms and looking at what was happening, listening to the reports, it was like, you are just doing the wrong thing, because you are not doing actually what was supposed to be done. We participated in the national dialogue process. Awuolic was in the secretariat. And again, it came to our understanding that that process itself was not going to go anywhere. And that's why we chose to demand that there should be a renewed process that would deliver peace in South Sudan. And we're doing this out of good faith, because honestly, if we continue the way we are going, the result is obvious: more crisis and all that. The coalition has been there for a year now, and we have informed the South Sudanese public adequately on the situation, because the voices of the civil society, first of all, has also been silenced in the country, and we have played this role adequately and very strongly. We have informed the general public, we have informed the international community, and we are shaping decisions of the South Sudanese public and also partners to the peace process to see that, moving the way we are moving, we're not getting peace to the country. So we are confident that the coalition is growing, continues to grow, continues to have impact, and that the message of the coalition will prevail, and that the desired change in our country will come, and so we are very confident of the PCCA.
Yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen. Awuolic, Rajab, Muhandis, for your time. We have taken almost close to 3 hours discussing, and you devoted your time to talk about the national issues that are actually affecting the citizens of our country and the entire nation. Our time or your time is not in vain, and we are so happy too. The viewers and the citizens are always coming to listen to your voice and to share your opinions with them, and to see how best these opinions can be correlated with what is happening in the country and the decision will be upon themselves on what to do with the information. We always appreciate your time. We don't take it for granted. Up to this juncture, I will give each one of you 2 minutes for your last parting shot and your message to the people of South Sudan. You have spoken eloquently, touching all the corners of the challenges in our country. But what is your message or the takeaway to the people of South Sudan and the citizens who have taken your time to watch through your voice and your show, this platform of Lagos State Media? Thank you so much. I will start with Rajab Muhandis, then I'll come to Awuolic. Rajab?
Good. Thank you very much once again for hosting us. And we also extend our appreciation to everyone who has been following this conversation. We thank you for tuning in to listen to our views as the People's Coalition for Civil Action on the situation in our country. The first message I would pass is that our country is in a critical situation. And at this point in time, all of us are affected by this situation. Whether we are in government or we are not in government, whether we are in the cities or in the villages, whether we are in uniform or not, whether we are old or young, all of us are affected by what is happening in our country, the failure of our state. And so we have a collective responsibility, first of all, to accept that the situation is not right. And South Sudan cannot continue like this with all these vices that we know, with displacement of people, killings, violence, economic failure, insecurity, lack of social services, and all these things. And for that reason, we need to come together and exercise our the duties as citizens to demand that the situation should change and be active contributors to the change we want to see in our country. And this is done in good faith. Obviously, as citizens, we have a responsibility to hold to account those who govern in our country. And as it stands now, things are not right. And the political leaders should also accept that whatever the way things are moving, the way they are governing the country is not even helping them. We continue to lose respect regionally and internationally, and we continue to fear even our own selves within Juba and the rest of the country. It is a situation that we must bring to an end, and to bring this to an end, we need to open up to one another. And address these issues squarely. We need to redefine the South Sudan we want, and also agree on how we achieve it. And that way, we will deliver peace that will be acceptable to all our citizens. We cannot continue to hang on to this situation and these processes, especially the peace agreement that does not have peace in itself. The partners in the peace agreement are violently engaging in confrontations among themselves, especially their forces. It's an indication that we need a new arrangement, and that is the message that we have been communicating as the PCCA. We also want to call on our colleagues in the civil society. We call on those in different organizations to realize that we have a responsibility and a duty to set the agenda. And that is what we have been doing as the PCCA. And we believe that this can be done non-violently. We have had enough bloodshed in the country. We've had enough, harm and destruction. We need to find a peaceful way to engage and restore peace in our country. And so we continue to inform our citizens to be active and to play a role. Thank you.
Well,
thank you so much, Bro.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brother Majong Makur, and to the leadership of Lake State Media, and to listeners and citizens of South Sudan across the globe who are listening to us. My message is this. Our country has hit rock bottom as we speak, economically, socially, and in terms of governance. everything has collapsed. And there are at times like this, when the direction of the country is not clear and the future is uncertain, the only thing that can save the day are its citizens. It's the citizens of the country doing what is required of them, who will stand up and fight for the future of their children. Our future has now been wasted. So what we are fighting for is actually the future of our children, so that they can live in peace inside their own country, be able to have education that they need, be able to have the skills to do the job of building their country, grow their economy, and be prosperous and have dignity and be recognized in the world as people of value and dignity. This is the challenge we have at hand. We really don't know how much more do our leaders have to prove to us that they are not capable of bringing us the future that we want. We fought for them. We voted to get our country independent, and our reward is violence. They have rewarded us with violence instead of rewarding us with economic prosperity, with education, with health, with infrastructure. So our call on the people of South Sudan is this. The time has come to do what is needful, to tell the government that we are no longer happy with the situation. We are calling people to reject the extension of this agreement, because it is not going to help the country. And we call those people in the civil society, in the academia, and other personalities, the group called the eminent persons, who are members of JMAC, and the international community, IGAD and the African Union, to reject the request for the extension of the agreement in the meeting that is coming up on the 1st of September in the RJMAC, and to fail this mission of extending suffering for the people of South Sudan. As one. Number two, we are calling our citizens across the country to demand for an inclusive national dialogue that will bring the people of South Sudan around the table, so that we can end the war and violence once and for all, and to have a democratic leadership transition. Instead of an extension, what is required now is a round table that will bring everybody on board, build a new national shared vision, shared objectives, and shared obligations, and move the country forward. This is our request. Lastly, on the issue of our colleague Kwela Agwerekwel, we are asking citizens across the globe, especially in the United States, in the UK, in Australia, and other well-to-do countries like Canada, Norway, and other Scandinavian countries, and Europe. We are looking for volunteers to actually raise funds for us to take the government of South Sudan to the African Court of Justice on the issue of arbitrary arrest of Kwela Agwerekwel for more than 384 days. Kweli has now been in jail for 384 days as of today. So we have decided, as the leadership of the PCCA, to take South Sudan government to the African Court of Justice for violating the Constitution of South Sudan by detaining Kwela Agwerekwel without charges and without arraignment in the court for over 364 days, 84 days. That is a violation of the Constitution. and we want to take this thing into, we want to take law. We want to take South Sudan government to court. So we need volunteers to raise funds for us to finance this initiative so that the government of South Sudan can answer in the court of justice why they are detaining Quill without being taken to court. So this is our request, and citizens should volunteer to do this fundraising for that purpose. Thank you very much, and God bless you, and we look forward to more interactions on this platform and other platforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, Abraham Awuolic, and my good brother Rajab Muhandis, for your wisdom, for your concern, and for your desire for peaceful, prosperous, and peaceful South Sudan. To our viewers, thank you so much for coming always to listen to our guests. It is our mandate as Lagos State Media to bring our guests and people of goodwill, great mind to come and talk to us. And it is not because their opinions will automatically change the situation in the country, but people are documenting their thoughts one by one. In the near future, there will be reference that so-and-so said this on this date and on this platform, and it has come to pass. Actually, everyone has been disappointed in our country, because the South Sudan, which all of us were collectively trying so much to see the beautiful face of our nation, has shown us the ugly face. And all citizens are disappointed, including the leaders themselves. It is our collective efforts. Do little things that you can at your own will, and you will be contributing positively toward the transformations of the country and toward the transformation of your own society, and you yourself are the citizen of South Sudan. Up to this juncture, I will appreciate the entire leadership of Lagos State, to the chairman and the president of Lagos State Media, Isaac Tiang, for staying throughout the night. It is now almost morning hour, 3 a.m. in Australia, and is still staying up to now to witness and see how best we can move on with our debate and our discussion of today. Abraham Adit is now in Africa, in Kampala, Uganda, the land of Museveni, and is also following our show. The same thing to Bolmakur in Texas, the same thing to Agardeng Mabok in Australia too. And to all our viewers, may God be with you, and let's hope for the best. Let's keep talking until it is over. A society that citizens keep talking is a society that finds solution to their problems. May God bless our guests, may God bless South Sudan, and may God bless you all. Bye.
It's your boy Young Love, I give him that thing. Pancho Lagos State, Panchi America, Panji Dwal, Pancho Lagos State, Panchi America, Panji Dwal, Ban Walk on the lake, Kankara, Watana watching, Oga, Level Lake, Gear, Pow, Garay Lake, Panda with Yay, Panchi America, Panya Dwal, Chingatonga, Pandon, could you ever buy a check out? Papu Panda Gear, what they are be Dwal venting. Stand Panchi America, Panji Dwal, Pancha Lagos State, Panchi America, Panji Dwal, Ban Walk on the lake, Kankara, Watana watching, Oga, Level Lake, Gear, Pow, Garay Lake, Panda with Yay, Panchi America, Panya Dwal, Chingatonga, Pandon, could you ever buy a check out? Paku Panda Gear, what they are be Dwal venting.